Hey everybody, Jonathan here, master trainer for many different types of reformers. Today's topic is how to intensify and modify using springs and by changing the position of your body on any type of reformer. I'm currently on the MegaCore and it has a white spring which is 4 pounds, gray spring which is 8 pounds, black spring which is 22 pounds, has a blue spring which is 88 pounds. When we're doing light spring exercises, whether that's core or light leg exercises, the lighter the spring, the more difficult, because on this gray 8 pound, if I pull it all the way back, this is how fast it comes in on 8 pounds. If I were to change it to a white spring, which is lighter, 4 pounds, and I pull it all the way back, it will come in considerably slower like this. So that means if I go out into an exercise on a light white 4 pound spring, I'll go out fine, but now I'm so far back that I'm shaking and the spring isn't helping to pull me in as much, so I have to do more of the work. If I add on a gray to a white, which means that there's more springs attached, more springs pulling you forward, now if I go out too far, there's more springs helping to pull the carriage in to help support me. If we needed to modify, we would just add on additional springs, more springs, because it will pull me in much faster. I currently have 2 grays and 1 white, which is 8 plus 8 plus 4, which is 20 pounds. And you'll notice when I pull it all the way back, it's going to come in very fast. In light spring exercises, the less springs, the less pounds, the harder it is because it doesn't pull you back in as fast. And the more springs or the more pounds from the springs will make it easier because now it's helping to bring the carriage in if you ever go too far. If we were to intensify without changing the springs, what we could do is instead of place our foot or knees on the very front end of the carriage, we would move it towards the center because the springs are attached to the front platform. If we were to move our hands or our feet over to the center, number 2, it's a lot lighter and it's not as much effort for me to push away, and the carriage feels a lot more slippery because the placement of your hand or your foot is away from the springs, so it's not heavy to push back as if it was all the way forward next to the springs. So the closer our feet or our hands are on the edge, it's heavier to push back and away, causing the springs to be heavier, which means that it'll come in faster. It feels more supportive having your hands or your feet all the way forward next to the spring that is expanding. So if you're doing light spring exercises, a different way to intensify is moving the position further towards the center of the carriage to make it lighter with less support. That means that if we wanted to modify, we would move our hands, knees, or toes all the way forward closer to the springs so that when the carriage opens or when we push the carriage out, it feels a lot more tight because you're so close to where the springs start the expansion. Now let's talk about how to modify for heavy spring exercises because it's the opposite. I'm going to attach a blue 88 pound spring, and what this is going to do is it's going to keep the carriage very tight to the front. So even if I just pull a little bit out, it's going to slam in very fast and hard. If you wanted to intensify a heavy spring exercise, you would place your hands or your feet closer to the springs because you want it heavier for heavy exercises. So by placing our hands or our feet towards the edge next to the springs, it's going to be considerably harder to push the carriage back. So that means that if we need to modify, if we move our hands or our feet away from the springs, away from the edge, it's going to lighten the load of the push. So here, I'm holding the front edge with 2 fingers and I'm really trying to pull back and my hands are shaking right here. If I were to move my hand to the strap, which is a lot further, now I can pull back with ease because I'm further away from the spring. That means if I move my foot here to number 2, which is the center, this is a lot lighter to push back than if my feet or my hands were here, which is a lot of springs pulling me forward as I'm trying to push it back. So to recap, heavy spring exercises can be modified by moving away from the springs, and to intensify, you move closer to the springs.